There is a moment, quiet, uncomfortable, and deeply confusing, that shows up right before your life shifts in a big way. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or applause. It often comes disguised as doubt, as exhaustion, as loss, as the feeling that nothing is working anymore. And that's when most people think they're failing. But what if you're not failing at all? What if you're being prepared? Right before everything changes, life has a way of stripping you down. It removes what's familiar. It tests what you say you believe. It asks you to sit in uncertainty long enough to discover your strength. This is not punishment. This is initiation. You may notice relationships shifting, doors closing, motivation dipping, old habits no longer fitting. The life you once knew starts to feel too small for the person you're becoming. And suddenly, standing still feels more painful than moving forward. Is that down? That's not a breakdown. That's a breakthrough trying to get your attention. Every meaningful transformation requires space. And space is created by discomfort. Growth demands that you release the old version yourself before the new one can fully arrive. The confusion you feel is not a sign to quit. It's a signal that you're crossing a threshold. You are not lost. You are in transition. Right before everything changes, clarity often disappears. Faith is tested. Patience is stretched, and courage is quietly built in moments when no one is watching. This is where purpose is refined. This is where resilience is born. So if things feel heavy right now, don't rush to escape it. Listen, because life is rearranging itself in your favor, even if it doesn't look like it yet. This moment is not the end of your story. It's the pause right before the next chapter begins. Discomfort has a bad reputation. The moment it shows up, most people assume something has gone wrong. We are taught to avoid it, escape it, silence it, or numb it as quickly as possible. Yet the truth is, discomfort is one of life's most honest messengers. It doesn't arrive to destroy you. It arrives to inform you. Right before everything changes, the discomfort becomes louder. It shows up as restlessness, frustration, emotional heaviness, or the strange feeling that your current life no longer fits who you are becoming. You may wake up feeling unsettled without knowing why. The routines that once felt safe now feel draining. The goals that once excited you no longer inspire the same fire. This is not a sign that you are failing. This is a sign that you are outgrowing the familiar. Discomfort is the soul's way of saying there is more for you than this. It is a signal that expansion is happening internally, even if nothing has shifted externally yet. Growth always begins on the inside before it ever shows up on the outside. And that inner growth often feels messy, uncomfortable, and uncertain. Many people make the mistake of turning back the moment discomfort appears. They return to what feels safe, even if it no longer serves them. They stay in situations that shrink them simply because the unknown feels frightening. But discomfort is not a stop sign placed in your path. It is a directional arrow pointing you toward your next level. It is asking you to pay attention, to question, to choose differently. Every meaningful change requires you to sit with discomfort long enough to learn from it. When you resist it, you delay your evolution. When you listen to it, you begin to understand what needs to shift. Discomfort often reveals truths you've been avoiding. It exposes misalignment. It highlights where you've been living on autopilot instead of intention. And while that realization can feel painful, it is also incredibly liberating. Think about every major breakthrough in your life. Before it happened, there was likely fear, doubt, a moment where you wondered if you were making a mistake. That emotional tension was not there to stop you. It was there to prepare you. Discomfort builds emotional strength. It teaches resilience. It forces you to trust yourself instead of external validation. Right before everything changes, life will often remove your sense of certainty. You may not know the next step, but you know you cannot stay where you are. That in between space is uncomfortable, but it is sacred. It is where courage is developed. It is where faith becomes personal instead of theoretical. When you stop running from discomfort and start asking what it's trying to teach you, everything shifts. You move from fear to curiosity, from resistance to awareness. You begin to realize that discomfort is not your enemy. It is your guide. So the next time you feel uneasy, unsettled, or stretched beyond your comfort zone, pause before retreating. Ask yourself what part of you is growing. Ask yourself what version of your life is trying to emerge. Because right before everything changes, discomfort doesn't come to stop you. It comes to make sure you are ready for what's next. One of the most painful experiences in life is watching something you once loved begin to slip away. A relationship changes, a role ends, a dream no longer feels alive. And in those moments, it's easy to believe you are losing something essential. But right before everything changes, life has a way of removing what cannot travel with you into the next chapter. When things fall away, it feels personal. It feels like rejection. It feels like failure. Yet often it has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with alignment. What once fit your life may no longer match the person you are becoming. Growth requires honesty, and honesty sometimes demands separation. There are people who are meant to walk with you for a season, not a lifetime. There are situations that exist to teach you something, not to hold you forever. And when the lesson is complete, life begins to loosen its grip. The discomfort you feel during these endings is not emptiness. It is transition. Many people cling to what is familiar because it represents safety. Even when it drains them, even when it limits them, even when it no longer reflects who they truly are. Letting go feels like stepping into the unknown, and the unknown can feel terrifying, but holding on to what no longer serves you quietly blocks what is meant for you next. Right before everything changes, you may notice doors closing without explanation. Conversations feel forced. Effort becomes one-sided. Opportunities dry up. This is not life being cruel. This is life being precise. It is clearing space. It is rearranging your environment to match your evolution. Loss often feels like subtraction, but in reality, it is refinement. When something leaves your life, it takes with it the version of you that needed it. What remains is a clearer, stronger, more authentic self. And although the absence can hurt, it also creates room for something better aligned with your purpose. It's important to understand that not everything that ends is a failure. Some endings are graduations. You outgrow a chapter not because it was wrong, but because it was complete. And completion is not something to grieve forever. It is something to honor. There is wisdom in learning when to release without resentment. When you bless what is leaving instead of chasing it. When you trust that life knows what it is doing, even when you don't fully understand. Letting go does not mean you didn't care. It means you care enough about your future to stop living in the past. Right before everything changes, surrender becomes more powerful than control. You realize that forcing what no longer fits only delays your peace. When you allow what needs to fall away to do so, you make room for new relationships, new opportunities, and new levels of fulfillment that you couldn't access before. So if something is leaving your life right now, don't immediately label it as loss. Ask yourself what space is being created. Ask yourself what version of you no longer needs this. Because what falls away at this stage was never meant to go forward with you. It was meant to prepare you, teach you, and then step aside so your next chapter could begin. There is a moment in every meaningful transformation where clarity disappears. The answers you once relied on stop working. The direction that once felt obvious becomes blurred, and suddenly you find yourself asking questions you never had to ask before. This phase is uncomfortable, unsettling, and deeply misunderstood. Yet right before everything changes, confusion is almost always present. Confusion does not mean you are off track. It means the old map no longer applies. When your life is shifting, the strategies, beliefs, and identities that once guided you can no longer lead you forward. They were designed for a previous version of you. And when they stop working, it can feel like you've lost your way, when in reality, you are being invited to find a new one. Most people fear confusion because it feels like weakness. We are taught to have answers, to be certain, to appear confident at all times. But confusion is not the absence of intelligence or faith. It is the space where deeper understanding is forming. It is the pause between what was and what will be. Right before everything changes, life often removes clarity so that you stop relying on external validation. When the path is obvious, it's easy to move forward without questioning your motives. But when the path becomes unclear, you are forced to listen inward. You begin to ask yourself what truly matters, what aligns with your values, and what kind of life you actually want to build. Confusion slows you down for a reason. It prevents you from rushing into decisions based on fear or habit. It creates space for reflection. It invites patience. And while waiting can feel frustrating, it is during this waiting that insight is born. The mind becomes quieter, awareness deepens, intuition grows stronger. I think of confusion as the clearing of mental clutter. Old assumptions dissolve, outdated beliefs lose their grip. The mind releases what no longer fits so that new perspectives can emerge. This process can feel chaotic, but it is necessary. Clarity that arrives too quickly is often shallow. Clarity that emerges from confusion is grounded and lasting. Many people abandon their journey during this phase. They mistake confusion for a sign to quit. They return to what is familiar, even if it no longer fulfills them, simply to escape the discomfort of not knowing. But those who stay present through confusion often experience the most profound breakthroughs. Right before everything changes, you may feel like you are standing in the dark. You can't see the full picture, but you can sense that something is shifting. This is where trust is built. Not blind trust, but a deep, quiet confidence that even without all the answers, you are being guided. Clarity is not something you force. It is something that reveals itself when you are ready to receive it. And readiness often comes after confusion has done its work. When you've questioned enough, when you've listened enough, when you've released the need to control every outcome. So if you feel confused right now, don't rush to fix it. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Let it refine your thinking and deepen your awareness. Because confusion is not the enemy of clarity. It is the doorway. And right before everything changes, that doorway is exactly where you are meant to stand. There are moments in life when you look around and realize that the crowd has thinned. The message is slowed down. The invitations stop coming. Conversations feel shallow or distant. And suddenly you find yourself spending more time alone than you ever expected. This season can feel heavy, even painful, but right before everything changes, isolation often appears for a reason. Isolation is not always rejection. Sometimes it is redirection. Life has a way of pulling you inward when it needs to strengthen you internally. When external noise fades, your inner voice becomes louder. And although silence can feel uncomfortable at first, it is often where the most important work happens. Many people fear being alone because it forces them to confront themselves. Without distraction, there is no escape from unresolved emotions, unanswered questions, or unhealed wounds. Yet this confrontation is not meant to break you. It is meant to prepare you. Isolation creates the space necessary for clarity, self-awareness, and emotional growth. Right before everything changes, life may remove familiar support systems so that you learn to stand on your own foundation. This doesn't mean you don't deserve help or connection. It means you are being taught self-trust. You are learning that your strength does not come from approval, attention, or constant companionship. It comes from knowing who you are when no one is watching. Isolation allows you to redefine your identity without outside influence. You begin to notice which opinions you adopted from others and which beliefs truly belong to you. You start making choices based on alignment rather than expectation. In this quiet space, authenticity is born. This season also builds resilience. When you navigate challenges on your own, you discover capabilities you didn't know you had. You learn how to soothe yourself, motivate yourself, and guide yourself through uncertainty. These skills become invaluable when life asks more of you in the future. Isolation does not mean you are being forgotten. It often means you are being protected. Protected from distractions, protected from influences that could pull you off course, protected while you are being refined. Growth requires focus, and focus requires distance from noise. Right before everything changes, you may feel misunderstood. You may feel like no one truly sees what you are going through, but this invisibility can be a gift. It frees you from performing. It allows you to evolve without pressure. Transformation happens best away from the spotlight. It is important not to confuse isolation with loneliness. Loneliness feels empty. Purposeful isolation feels heavy but meaningful. It carries the weight of becoming. And while you may long for connection during this time, trust that this season is temporary and intentional. When the preparation is complete, life will reintroduce connection in a new way. You will attract people, opportunities, and environments that align with the version of you that emerged during your time alone. And you will be grateful for the solitude that shaped you. So if you find yourself in a season of isolation, don't rush to escape it. Don't assume something is wrong with you. Lean into it with patience and self-compassion. Because right before everything changes, isolation often appears not to punish you, but to prepare you for what's next. Every transformation requires an ending, not an ending that is loud or dramatic, but one that is internal, quiet, and deeply personal. Right before everything changes, you are often asked to release the version of yourself that can no longer carry you forward. This is one of the hardest parts of growth because it feels like losing a part of your identity. The old version of you was not wrong. It was necessary. It helped you survive. It protected you. It learned what it needed to learn in the environment you were in. But survival is not the same as fulfillment. And at some point, what once kept you safe begins to keep you small. Letting go of an old version of yourself can feel unsettling. You may question who you are without the habits, beliefs, or roles you've carried for so long. You may feel guilt for changing, especially if others benefited from you staying the same. Growth often disrupts expectations, and that can create discomfort not just for you, but for those around you. Right before everything changes, you may notice that your reactions shift. You no longer tolerate what you once accepted. You begin setting boundaries that feel unfamiliar. You speak differently. You think differently. These changes can feel lonely because they separate you from the identity others have grown used to. But this separation is not betrayal. It is evolution. The old version of you was built in response to past circumstances. The new version of you is being built in response to possibility. And possibility requires courage. It requires you to choose truth over comfort, alignment over approval, and growth over familiarity. Many people resist this stage because endings are painful. Even when something is no longer serving you, releasing it can bring grief. There is sadness in acknowledging how long you lived in a version of yourself that no longer fits. But grief is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of honesty. It means you are honoring your journey instead of denying it. Right before everything changes, life often asks for surrender. Not surrender in the sense of giving up, but surrender in the sense of letting go of control. You stop trying to force yourself into old patterns. You stop pretending. You allow the old identity to dissolve naturally, making space for something more authentic to emerge. This process is not instant. The old and new versions may overlap for a while. You may feel like you are standing between two worlds, no longer who you were, but not fully who you are becoming. This in-between space is uncomfortable, but is sacred. It is where integration happens. When the old version of you finally releases its grip, there is a sense of freedom that follows. You feel lighter, more aligned, more at peace with your choices, and you begin to move through life with a clarity that wasn't available before. So if you feel like you are shedding layers, questioning your identity, or outgrowing your past, don't resist it. This ending is not loss. It is preparation, because right before everything changes, the old version of you must end, so the new one can finally begin. If there is one truth to hold on to, it is this: nothing is random in seasons of transformation. The discomfort, the loss, the confusion, the isolation, and the inner ending you have been experiencing are not signs that life is working against you. They are signs that life is working on you. Right before everything changes, things often feel the most unstable. What once made sense no longer does. What once felt secure begins to shift. And the version of you that relied on certainty is asked to trust without proof. This is the moment where many people give up, not because they are incapable, because they misunderstand what this season means. You were never meant to stay the same. Growth requires movement, and movement requires courage. The discomfort you felt was guiding you. What fell away was clearing space. The confusion was reshaping your understanding. The isolation was strengthening your inner foundation. And the ending your old self was making room for a more aligned, authentic version of you to rise. This season is not here to break you. It is here to prepare you for what you have been asking for. Every challenge has been refining you, sharpening your awareness, and deepening your resilience. You are becoming someone who can hold more, see more, and live with greater purpose. So if you are standing at the edge of uncertainty, don't rush backward. Pause. Breathe. Trust the process unfolding within you. Because this moment, this exact moment, often appears right before everything changes. And when the change arrives, you will look back and realize that nothing was wasted. Every step was necessary. Every ending was meaningful, and every uncomfortable moment was quietly guiding you toward the life you were meant to live.